actually, at the cathedral. But now let's come back to Lung Cancer Awareness Month. It's this month, and we've actually got some good news because figures from Cancer Research UK show just over 5,000 lives are saved from lung cancer in the southeast every year. The charity suggests that since the 70s, nearly 95,000 deaths have been avoided from the disease in our area thanks to things like research and improvements in prevention and diagnosis and treatment. Let's now turn to Jo Wiles, who is living with lung cancer. Jo, thank you so much for joining on the show. It's really important to raise awareness, and that's why we have a specific month so we can talk about it. Tell us about your experience and how are you at the moment?
Hello, yes. Yes, I'm doing very well, actually. I was diagnosed nearly 9.5 years ago with stage 4 lung cancer. So at the time, things were fairly bleak. Obviously, I wasn't expecting it. I'm a non-smoker, never have smoked. So I know I was only 45 at the time. So, it's the last thing that I was thinking that, I'd likely to get. I have a specific type of non-small cell lung cancer called ALK positive, which is quite an unusual one. It's a sort of 40 gene, if you like, and tends to be a lot of people that are non-smokers that get this particular type. So fortunately, if you like, if you're going to get lung cancer, it's one that can be sort of stemmed, and there's various options. Initially, I was given chemotherapy, 4 rounds of chemotherapy before they actually found out it was ALK positive. And unfortunately that made no difference at all, apart from making me feel dreadful, obviously.
Yes, it's so tough, isn't it?
But then with various biopsies, they found out it was ALK. And then I've been on a tablet form, which is called TKI, which is like an inhibitor, which basically keeps the cancer stable, which is never going to cure it. But it's one of those things that keeps it at bay, if you like. And less side effects, obviously. So it is a sort of chemotherapy type drug, but it's a daily drug I physically take rather than going into a hospital or anything.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, I'm actually on my second TKI because usually what happens with the cancers is they get clever and get used to them and everything else. So back in, I would say, sort of late 2015 when I was first diagnosed. In June 2016 was when I actually started the first TKI after the chemotherapy. That worked for about 18 months, which was great, but then I had some progression, so I moved on to another one. And actually I've been on that one for nearly 6.5 years now, so I'm very fortunate that that's worked really well for me. And each sort of every 3 months I have a scan. Obviously, you never quite know, it's that sort of worrying time. And a lot of people call it scanxiety because, between going for the scan and then seeing an oncologist can be quite a worrying time because you never quite know what's going to happen. But yeah, so far, I'd say I've been very lucky and, I'm all stable. So that's all you can hope for, really. And, tend to try and live life to the full and be very positive about it. So, initially, I was sort of, initially when I was diagnosed, they sort of said, it might make 5 years sort of thing. And here I am 9.5 years later. So, from that point of view, it's really good news.
Pleased
so it's not always bad news, if you know what I mean. As at stage 4, it is a question of living with it. It's easy to sort of bury your head in the sand and think the worst, but I tend to try and be fairly positive about it. ALK positive, there's actually a charity that was set up by a lady about 5 years ago, and they've been brilliant. There's mainly it's sort of for support. There's a Facebook group and everything else, and there's a lot of people involved with that actually, just putting your question or query or whatever onto the Facebook group, they'll, generally people have had that side effect or, that niggle and sort of thing. So it's actually really good for, very much supporting one another, really.
Yeah, and to have that community, it's so important. Well, listen, Jo, we're so pleased you're doing well, and thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing your story this morning. May you go from strength to strength. Jo Wiles then, living positively with lung cancer. Now let's talk to Sophia Lowes, who's from Cancer Research UK. Sophia, thank you for being here as well. And it's interesting, isn't it? Joe was saying she hasn't been a smoker, and I think that's an important point to make, so that people who think, well, I've never smoked, I must be fine. If they have symptoms, you should still get checked out, shouldn't you?
Absolutely, yeah. Thanks for having me. And yeah, we do know that around 7 in 10 lung cancer cases are linked to smoking. But as Joe pointed out, she's a non-smoker, and we do know that some cases are in people who have never smoked at all. So no matter what your history of smoking, if you notice something that's not normal for you, then do go speak to your doctor. And for lung cancer in particular, it's things like having a new cough, and particularly one that won't go away. Getting out of breath, doing things that you used to do without a problem, or kind of having an ache or pain in your chest and shoulder, or coughing up phlegm with blood on it. But, the symptoms vary. And so it's really about, if you notice something that isn't normal for you, your doctor will want to hear about it.
Really important, yeah, really important to get there early, I guess, with any type of cancer. The sooner you're diagnosed, the better. And we have been talking about the good news this morning, that actually research and treatments developing mean that lives, they are being saved, aren't they, right now?
Yeah, it's fantastic to see the sort of progress we've made in avoiding deaths from lung cancer. And our research shows that nearly 668,000 deaths have been avoided from this disease in the UK since the 1970s. And that's just a huge testament to the significant progress in prevention, diagnosis and treatment, from kind of unlocking kind of discoveries on the causes of lung cancer, trying to diagnose people earlier, and also kind of development of new treatments. All those come together to help kind of see those improvements in the lives saved. And but we do need to go further, because sadly survival for lung cancer does still kind of lag behind most other cancer types. So this is obviously a cause for celebration, but it's also a moment to think about how we can go further and faster. And there's a huge opportunity at the moment for us to make progress in the future with lung cancer by raising the age of sale of tobacco. And that's from the tobacco and vapes bill that is passing through Parliament at the moment. And we've seen fantastic news that has passed through Parliament on its second reading this week, which will raise the age of sale for tobacco, so that eventually we will create a future free from the harms of tobacco and prevent so many people from developing lung cancer in the future.
Yes, when you talk about prevention, do you think that's the main thing? It's giving up smoking, quitting, not taking up smoking, or are there other things that we need to be aware of?
It's about the entire picture. So the prevention of lung cancer and other cancers is hugely important, and things like stopping smoking is really important for lung cancer specifically, and for other cancers, things like keeping a healthy weight and eating a healthy diet are also important things that people can do to reduce their own risk of cancer. But we also know that when cancer is diagnosed at an early stage, it's more likely to be successful. So it's not just about those preventing. It's also about, for the people who do get diagnosed, how can we get them diagnosed as soon as possible? And things like getting people to the GP and developing new screening methods, other detection methods, new tests for picking up cancer better. Those are all going to have an impact on how we can get people diagnosed earlier and increase their chances of survival.
Good stuff. Listen, Sophia, really important to talk to you this morning. Thank you so much for being with us on the show. Sophia Lowes then from Cancer Research UK, talking on this Lung Cancer Awareness Month about treatments and diagnosis, and of course prevention as well. It's the Wake Up Call with Anna. All the latest travel news are on the way for you.
Radio Sussex. So we heard the